A poem for chaos. Yesterday, there were footprints on the tar, and markings of scarlet roses lined the rows of red growing from the concrete where millions slid away. Today, we ride on their backs. They made our train tracks with their bones. Their sweat is mixed with the cement that carries our roads. Their blood, the city's water, drips too. Because nothing is ever perfect, is it? They call their children chaos. Their silence is their violence, so fluent and quiet that you can hear the air pant in unison, whispers beneath the breath of those who hope they never learn to speak. For atop these very stones they walk are buried bones that once talked, and that was then, when the earth was a symphony of fear. I'd hope they hear it. But even if they don't, they'll live up to their names. I'm Oratile Molali. Bloemfontein, South Africa is where I'm at. Welcome to PACE Entangled.
Welcome everybody to the third day of the Pan-African Creative Exchange. We are very, very excited to have you all here. We are sharing this live on Facebook. So if you have a Facebook page, you're welcome to start a watch party or share it on your Facebook page. We also then take questions from Facebook to place it in our chat space. So if you have any questions from your friends or acquaintances who are talking and wanting to kind of engage with speakers that we have here, please paste their questions also on this chat space here inside. A few housekeeping points that I want to make. Tomorrow afternoon we have what's called a coffee clutch. A coffee clutch is kind of a session where individuals who are part of the Pan-African Creative Exchange can create their own networking session or discussion space in AirMeet. You can probably have about 8 people at your table. So if you want to create a coffee clutch around a particular session or idea that you have, please let us know. You can let Mark Dobson know, just email him or let him know on our website. The second thing I want to ask you all to do is to create a profile. If you haven't registered yet and created a profile on the Pan-African Creative Exchange's website, there's a wonderful facility there where you can create a profile and also then connect with other delegates. We have about 350 or more delegates who've registered for the Pan-African Creative Exchange. So it's an enormous resource once you've registered to have your profile there, follow people, and in the chat space on the website, connect with other people one-on-one or in a group chat. You can start a group chat if you want to talk about a collaborative project with several people. I also want to let you know about a wonderful art intervention that started yesterday. It's called the Aleatoric Sound Collective Creation. You can also see that on our website. It was created yesterday by Pan-African Creative Exchange delegates Sonja Rademeijer and Franco Prinsloo. It converted people's drawings of their own faces into a sonic environment. So each day we have an artistic intervention in addition to a poem to start our sessions off. The structure of the day is again similar to the other days. There's 3 sessions. The first session is a panel discussion. The second session is a kind of workshop pitching environment. And then in the evenings we have a social lounge in AirMeet, which is a new platform where people can kind of gather. Please note, you do need to have a laptop and preferably through Chrome to join us on AirMeet this evening. Now, with my housekeeping notes finished, I just also want to thank the Pan-African Creative Exchange staff who work feverishly behind the scenes to have this all happen. The Executive Director, Nikkei Jonah, the Pan-African Creative Exchange, and Erwin Maas, co-founder. Also Isabel Locke, Mark Dobson, Lizanda Visser, Tutukane Ndlovu, Sumari Potgieter Amal, all of them working behind the scenes to kind of facilitate all these wonderful discussions. And now it's my absolute privilege to introduce you to Monique Martin, who is the facilitator of the first session today on disruptions in the African environment. Monique, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ricardo, and good morning, everyone. I am Monique Martin, as Ricardo said, and it is very early here in New York City. I am thrilled and honored to be here. It seems like forever ago that Ricardo and Erwin and Nike and I were here in New York for the APAP conference, and Nike was sharing her dream of the PACE conference. And although we are shut down because of the concurrent pandemics of, at least here in the States, I can speak to COVID-19 as well as structural racism. So it has impacted the arts, and it has impacted, obviously, touring, that artists are not able to tour. What we are excited about is to understand where the artists are now and what the possibilities are. This pause that we are all experiencing gives us an opportunity to recalibrate and to reimagine how we want to see the world, how we want to see art intersect with social justice, and how we want to see the art impact our communities locally and also nationally and globally. So I'm thrilled and honored to facilitate this conversation. I'm here as a guide and to allow space for these incredible panelists to share their stories and share some of the challenges and some of the exciting opportunities that are present. So all of their bios, as Ricardo mentioned, are on the website. You can find detailed information and also their contact information if you'd like to follow up with them for residencies, to offer them residencies or collaborative opportunities. You can find that information. So I won't spend time giving you their esteemed history and experience. I'll let them do that. They include Kenneth Uphopho from Nigeria, Hope Azeda from Rwanda, Tunde Adefioyi, I hope I pronounced that correctly, from Nigeria and Belgium, and Cornelia Faasen from South Africa. So I'd like to start with Hope. If you could please introduce yourself and give us a framing of where you are now in your art practice and about your company. Lastly, before you speak, Hope, I wanted to just share my framing for this conversation, and that is taken from our wonderful activist and artist, Nina Simone, who says art and artists should reflect the times. So let us allow that to guide us as we move forward bravely and courageously during these times. Hope? You're mute. Unmute.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks for that nice quote from Simone, and thanks to PACE for inviting me in this space, which looks like a circle of life. Yeah, as you had said, my name is Hope Azeda, and I've been living in Rwanda for 20 years now. I was born and raised in Uganda. That's why I grew up as a refugee, then returned to Rwanda after the 1994 Rwandan genocide against Tutsi. So my background is playwriting and directing theater performances, but I also do casting for films and all that. So for the last 20 years, I started a company when I came back called Mashirika Performing Arts and Media Company. And we've been using art as a tool for social transformation, because this goes back to my background of theater for development. So which means we identify gaps in society or in different communities, and we look for artistic forms or artistic ways to bridge those gaps. And we try to engage the communities to be part of that solution through the arts. So that's what my company has been doing for the last 20 years. And in 2015, after looking at what we've been working on, I started an arts festival called Ubuntu Arts Festival. Ubuntu means humanity or being human. It takes place at the Kigali Genocide Memorial, where about 300,000 innocent lives of the Rwandan genocide are buried right now. That's where that's their final resting place. So this space, the Kigali Genocide Memorial, have also been partners with my company for the last 20 years in how do we bring stories to testimonies, to the only stories we know about people that left because of who they are, not because they are criminals. How do we shed light to them? How do we make sure that this light shall live as an undying flame? So the festival runs in this space, and I started it there specifically because I realized there was a gap in the kind of art that we're doing as artists. I realized there was a gap where soul had walked away from our space of creations. And I was like, maybe I'm always engaged in this quiet space. There's a very loud silence here that becomes my pen when I'm writing my scripts. And when I show these scripts to people around the world, when I travel, they're like, well, how did you learn how to do this? How did you do this? Because basically my scripts and how I write my plays look like a broken mirror. I had to break rules of formal classic way of writing plays and just like stitch things together. And it's a running something with the flow on stage, but very reflective of the current situation. So where I am now is my office that has been my office for the since this is the first time I stay and work in this office for about 4 months now. I used to run around before COVID, and I rarely sat in this place. I would dump my notebooks because I collect notebooks and pens. I would dump them here. But this is the first time really when I'm like, hey, this space. So it has been my home or my cube where I look for light, where I open windows and the light comes into my space. And that space, what I've created there is what I've been sharing with the world. So that is basically who Hope is right now and what she is and where she's seated, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Kenneth Uphopho from Nigeria.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Monique. My name is Kenneth Uphopho. You got the pronunciation correctly. The P is quite silent. That's a good one. I'm originally from Delta State in Nigeria, but I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria now. I've been practicing for over 20 years now. I've been a PACE alumna for quite a bit since inception. So I'm really, really excited to be on this panel with all of you. It's a great credit to PACE, to Erwin, to Ricardo, to the executive director, Nick Jonah. You know, I've presented work at PACE, and at this time of the pandemic, it's a very good idea that this is still ongoing. So thank you very much, thumbs up. I run the production company called the Performing Arts Workshop and Studios. We're based in Lagos. We've been operating for 15 years now. What we do is basically, we're very, very interested in the development of new voices and talent in the arts, especially in Nigeria. We've identified that there's a gap in professional development, so people create work, but in terms of the journey from the work process, the beginning of the journey to the end, we sort of guide that process for them. Theater in Nigeria is not so different from the rest of the world, in that it's greatly and hugely influenced by government policies and successive government change and all of that. It was very vibrant in the 50s up until the 80s, when there was some kind of structural adjustment program. And you know what that meant for us was that people with disposable income they had to readjust their realities, you know, readjust their present realities to reflect the times. And so we lost a lot of clientele in the arts, and theater just took like a nosedive. That left a huge deficit in professional development, in audience development, as well as infrastructure. So when we started to create work in the late 2000s, it meant that there were no spaces for us to rehearse, no spaces for us to exhibit the work. And it was really tough trying to get your work out there if there were no spaces for you to exhibit the work in the first place. Game changer for us was our collaboration with the British Council in 2013. Through their initiative, the Lagos Theatre Festival, which I ran as the festival director. In 2013, the festival came as a response for theater makers to be able to present their work in unconventional spaces, to see beyond the traditional spaces. The first time we did it in 2013, we had 4 venues at a hotel, and we used like a presidential suite of the hotel. We used a parking lot for one of the plays. We used a garden, and we also used a restaurant. So what that meant for us was, it was such a game changer because, there were no spaces to present the work in the first place. So that was a huge change. The challenge then was how to develop an audience who were already used to those spaces where work was going to be created, where the traditional spaces with air conditioning and all of that. And now we had to bring them to these uncomfortable spaces, no air conditioning and all of that. So we started to do some kind of re-education in the arts, stakeholders forum, man-to-man, word of mouth, talking to audiences here and there. And over the last 15 years, in the next 5 years with the Lagos Theatre Festival, we expanded the festival to accommodate more people, more new voices in the arts, to be able to present their work in the space. We thought that to be able to get your work out there, you first had to be seen by the local community. You first had to be accepted by the local community. We first had to create like a community of artists first, like an industry, to be able to be heard. We considered the fact that mobility and access for artists was also a problem. When embassies see artists, they think immigration, so we had to develop that industry, and we've been doing that for the last 5 years. We started the Lagos Theatre Festival, the Lagos Fringe Festival, also in response to the lack of infrastructure. We've been doing that for 3 years now. We've presented work at the Vrystaat Arts Festival, where we sort of collaborated with them so that artists from Lagos could present their work through that channel. And what this meant was that artists now have a place to create their work. In the next couple of months, we started working on the Abuja Fringe Festival. And that's another platform for creative artists to present their work also. It's somewhere around the northern part of Nigeria. It will accommodate artists from the northern part of Nigeria, the northeast, all the northern part of Nigeria who couldn't make their way to Lagos, to part of the Lagos Fringe. And so that's where we're at now. POS Studios will be 16 this year, and we're so excited to be part of PACE. And I look forward to this conversation. Over to you, Monique.
Thank you. I appreciate your lifting up, creating in non-traditional spaces, which sometimes can be framed as avant-garde, and many artists are many artists have to do that because of the lack of infrastructure. So I just want to pick that up later, but thank you for sharing that experience of creating work in spaces that parking lots, as we think about the future. Cornelia, I'd like to go to you next.
Hi, good afternoon. Well, it's afternoon here in South Africa, where I'm at in the Western Cape in Stellenbosch. So my name is Cornelia Faasen, and I run an organization called the Nasionale Afrikaanse Theater Initiatief, and that's in Afrikaans. In English, it's a national theater initiative, but very much based around the Afrikaans language in South Africa. And we are a funding organization, and our mandate is to work with as many festivals and as many theaters and as many productions and as many artists as possible within the confines of our annual budget, of course. So our initiative initially started because there was a need for longevity in our environment. So we find that often festivals and theaters compete with each other for audiences and for funding. And our organization, I think I'm very fortunate to say that we are a no strings attached funding organization. And we try to obtain longevity with the productions that we get involved in. So the funding doesn't necessarily go to a specific festival, it goes towards the work and the artist, and to see that they can perform and tour for as long as possible. So there is sustainability and development in the work. We are also one of the founding sponsors of PACE. And if you know anything about the history of South Africa, you will know that Afrikaans is a contested language in our country and in our environments. But we're trying to establish a new kind of Afrikaans and a new language through the arts, where we say Afrikaans is an African language. It came from this continent. And we would like to position it alongside other African languages and see where we can collaborate. And so Afrikaans is always prominent in our work, but we like to position it next to other South African and African languages as much as possible. So we are very, very interested in this discussion today to see where do we go from here in terms of what you fund, and to get insights from other people. What should we fund in the future? What is the responsible thing to do? And how do we disrupt and disobey the status quo? And what should the new status quo and the new normal be? So it's quite a privilege for me to be part of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Cornelia. And finally, we will hear from Tunde, Adefioyi from Nigeria, and representing Belgium. And I forgive me if I did not get your name as your people say it, as your family says it.
I can't believe you got Kenneth's name right, but you didn't get my name right. No, but no, it's all right. So my name is Tunde Adefioyi, and I'm actually, you know, to pay respect to my mama too. I'm half Nigerian and half Texan. But I've been living in Belgium now for more than a few years. So yeah, I work as a city dramaturg in the city of Brussels, and I have also previously, before that, started an organization called Urban Warden. And Urban Warden was really about creating a platform where young people could express themselves using poetry, rap, slam poetry, and literature in general. So we would give workshops in schools, organize workshops in prisons. So it was really about, you know, creating this space for where they could empower themselves. You know, it wasn't about us trying to empower them, but, you know, trying to create spaces. Fortunately, the organization is still around. You know, it went through some kind of, you know, rocky patches. Now it's fusing with another organization. And what is happening with that organization currently, Urban Warden Art Form, is just a really beautiful example of kind of where we need to go in the future. But the reason why I was invited to this panel specifically, though, is to talk about the work I've been doing since 2016 as a city dramaturg in Brussels. So that has been really kind of, well, those who've heard this before probably know that, you know, it's really about creating a sort of a canvas, you know, seeing the city as a canvas and using the city as a way, using that canvas, sorry, as a way to really kind of encourage discussions and to really kind of try to work towards not necessarily solutions, but towards kind of possibilities in terms of what does the city mean for the inhabitants of the city. So I say inhabitants and not citizens, because, you know, we are very aware, of course, in a place like Brussels about the reality of those coming from, you know, places like Nigeria, places like Sudan, places like Lebanon, you know, places like Syria, and finding themselves here. So how do you deal with that within a city context? How do you deal with that within a cultural theater context? You know, so that's really kind of been the real challenge of the work that we've been trying to do, or I've been trying to do as a city dramaturg together with my colleagues. So that specifically meant, you know, programming programming work, but it also specifically meant devising new ways of creating theater, devising new ways of, not new ways, but kind of engaging new ways of putting together a theatrical performance. So one of the things that I helped to kind of give life to in 2016 was this concept called Slam Our World, which was a or is still a slam theater residency project that has now invited individuals like Sabrina Mahfouz, who is a British Egyptian from London, has also invited Chrissy Gario, some of you might know from the Zwarte Piet, it's racism campaign. So he came and created a piece about Blackness in a city like Brussels. We've also had the privilege of inviting artists from Kinshasa, Congo, to do a 3 weeks residency here and present the 3 weeks residency, which is also an opportunity to meet with the local community and engage with local artists and local kind of policymakers and local players in the general sense of the word, including professors and so on. This last, well, this most current version of Slow is with Haven Artists, Haven for Artists. They're based in Beirut. So we're engaged with them. We were engaged with them since last August to create this slow piece. It's a queer, it's a safe space for queer artists based in Beirut, like I said. It's been really kind of, I guess you could say, they embody where we currently are. In March, they were supposed to come here. Well, I should probably go back just a tiny bit and say in August, I was there in Beirut, meeting them, doing some kind of engaging with the scene there and really kind of seeing where we were going to take the project. And then in September, October, that's when the uprising started in Beirut. And then, you know, we still kept on working. And then March of this year, of course, they were supposed to come to present their piece. And of course, because of the global pandemic and the lockdown, they couldn't make it from Beirut to Brussels. And then we said, okay, well, how about we present it in August online? Well, as you all know, just less than a month ago, the blast happened at the port of Beirut, affecting a lot of just equipments and souls, not to mention the number of people that passed away. So this project with them, this theater piece that we were supposed to create with them, really kind of embodies kind of where we are now and where, kind of questioning where we need to go. How do we create, theater? How do we create cultural context that takes into consideration not only the context like Brussels, but really kind of international context like those in Beirut, or for example those in Lagos, and how do we kind of see ourselves as as this PACE platform tries to encourage, as a really kind of transversal and trans or cross-border sort of cultural network of individuals and players. So I hope that gives a sense of who I am and where I'm kind of thinking towards. I guess one small tiny thing is that one of the things that I hope to kind of talk about later is the question that Arundhati Roy kind of poses to us in terms of saying, in her article in the Financial Times about seeing the pandemic as the pandemic as a portal, and she asked the question, what are we going to take with us? And I think that that's the question we definitely have to ask in in the cultural sector, in the theater sector, in the performing arts sector. What are we going to take with us? Are we going to continue to allow bodies like the British Council or other institutions to determine how we shape our cultural realities, and how we tell the stories that we need to tell? Yeah.
Thank you for that, Tunde. Someone just asked in the chat the name of the article that you just mentioned. And I too love this vision of the pandemic as portal, as an opportunity to transcend. And it also brings up an Afrofuturist energy and perspective. So Tunde, what is the name of the article? Or if you can just put it in the chat, if you have a link to it. And
yeah, I'll put the article, the name in the chat. It's Adefioyi.
Perfect, thank you. One of the things that I wanted to lift up that Tunde also mentioned is, as we think about getting your work out there and touring, residencies is one. CrossCultural Exchange is the second piece that I'd like to dive into. And the top line question is, during this pause, how has it shifted your thinking around the community where you are? Because we are not able to be mobile and to tour. The Beirut artists were not able to come to Belgium. So has it shifted or expanded your eyes and your thinking around your community where you are? Are you thinking hyper local? Is touring still top line? And if so, are residencies a way to begin cross-cultural exchange, or an opportunity to have support and funding around that kind of touring, where you're not touring a work that's finished, but you are actually in a cross-cultural exchange conversation and relationship with venues within your own country and beyond? I hope that's clear. So has this pause during this pandemic shifted your thinking about your local community? If so, how? And how are you thinking about touring, and are residencies an opportunity for us to go through that portal with some great ideas? And I will pose that to any of the panelists.
Maybe I can go there. Yeah. So for me, it has expanded, and it's been a big eye opener, because I personally had a festival that was going to see 25 companies travel to Rwanda in July. And I didn't want to die twice, so I kept it going. And I said, whatever happens on that day, whatever is available is what is meant to be. Because I mean, we can plan for the future, we can strategize, we can do things. But one lesson we have drawn from COVID is that planning is not enough. We have to be the artists that react in the moment. So for me, it has been a big eye opener, and it has expanded my thinking and strategizing about my festival, because, and also my company, we had a lot of work to tour this. We had our schedule was tight as a company, but all that managed to happen online. So for me, what the festival is going to look like, and what I've learned now, is that I have now built an online community that may never even ever afford to come to Rwanda. I may never ever afford the ticket or the flight ticket. And that community, I cannot drop it and say, oh, COVID is gone, we can now travel. See you whenever COVID comes and we can't travel. No, we've picked each other's hands, and I think we are trying to keep our audience engaged, even if the festival is annual. And then when come next year in July, the festival will be hybrid. We are going to have local content and the content online, because we have a family online. We have also a family that would love to travel to Rwanda and be physical. Hallelujah. So we'll have 50-50 of everything. So my thinking right now is always like, is it physical or is it, so there's always that question that what if, the what ifs that we don't have answers for. I think we are safe enough to stay online and also stay locally rooted as human beings before we go to live as aliens in the air. So yeah, so I'm in both worlds, and my thinking and strategizing is in both worlds.
So if I understand you correctly, even when the world is opened up and we have a safety with health, are you thinking about including digital content in your festival?
Yes, I mean, yeah. Safety and health is not a check. It is just to say you can travel. It does not like reopen the economies. The economies that used to support the art industry are crushed down on ashes. You will need time to recover. And then, you know, we saw most sponsors drop out of our festival. The sponsors, they're like, it's really bad in our companies. We are laying off people. Flights are struggling, so they're even doubling their tickets. So the thing that we really need as artists to travel is, you know, you need to move, you need to fly. If the flight ticket is almost the budget of your festival, then you can't go that way. But if somebody can afford it, well and good. To be honest, experts have said this. They've said that really life after Corona will not be the same. And I don't know what that language means. I don't know what it is, but to be honest, I want my head in the safe space of dreaming. You know, if I can't do this, I have plan B, you know? So I think we now have a plan B in case things even get worse or better. For me, yes, health and safety, you can travel, you can do anything, but still, I don't want the stress of, you know, fundraising $100,000 just for few companies to travel here. I would rather use it productively and send it to them to send content online, because we need bread on our tables. And then, and our industry is badly hit by this. So I don't want to be stressed by travels or anything. We can travel, fine. Can we still breathe and exist in this existence? Fine, let's look for a way to exist and still work. And I found that really very powerful. Like, we built networks, we've merged together. I feel like we are more connected than we were before in our industry. And I don't want to lose that.
Excellent, thank you. Kenneth, Tunde, Cornelia?
Yes, just to jump on what you said, it was quite a shocker for me. I didn't think there was a time when I wouldn't have to, you know, do work for 5 months and just, you know, stay rooted in my own space and not be engaged digitally like this that I've done in the last month. It was a shocker. But one thing it did for me personally was, you know, it further reinforced some of the things, that ideals that we started with for the Lagos frame, where we said we wanted to look inwards, you know, start inwards, that if it was difficult to get out there to the world, get to work out there, they will bring the world to us, you know. And in doing that, artists are very, very aware now about, you know, presenting their work digitally. But the challenge for me has always been, how do you monetize presenting your work digitally? You know, how do you monetize it? It's not just presenting work. We have a catalog, a whole catalog of classical plays, new writings and all of that was developed 8 years of festivals and all of that. And over 50% of them can't go online because there are a few challenges with it, contracting issues. They're not original pieces, so you don't have the license or permission to present the work digitally. And then there's the question of how do you monetize the work? You know, I've seen cases where people just present the work online like that, and, you know, ask for donations. But I don't want that. We've been thinking about how to make entrepreneurs of artists. So we're very, very big on that. The question now is, how do we monetize the content that we have for the online space? You know, it's not just presenting the work to programmers or producers, but how do you make money from it? How do you earn a living from it? Especially now that, you know, we've not earned a living in the past 5 months. What's the next steps that we're taking to ensure that artists get a living from any work that they present, or if they're doing any co-creative experiences with international collaborators, how do they monetize it? It's very, very critical for me. So that's my addition to it.
Thank you. Tunde or Cornelia, I also want to let everyone know who is watching on Facebook that there, you can type in your questions in the chat, and someone is filtering those questions and forwarding them to us. So please be sure to stay engaged with us on Facebook. So I'd love to hear from Cornelia on how you're thinking, how has your thinking or your vision shifted or expanded or deepened or shrunk during this time in terms of your local community? Do you see your local community with different eyes?
Yeah, certainly, and I think in terms of representing a funding organization, the question that Scott poses in the chat is, I mean, it goes right to the heart of the issue. And as Kenneth also states, how do you monetize this new online world that we are living in? And from a funding perspective, what do you look at in terms of potential for monetizing the work? Because in the end, all festivals and theaters and artists are dependent on not only funding for work, but then also making additional funding from your festival or your theater. And in terms of just linking to the question of the day, of how do, what is the role of the artist in disrupting? And I'm sure everybody here hates the words new normal. I think we're all sick and tired of it. And especially in the arts. I mean, how do we go about disrupting existing spaces and existing systems? And who is benefiting from these existing systems and spaces and funding models? Now, how do you disrupt that? And how do you select work that does that? Because is this new online and virtual world, is it really a disruption? And I think that is an important thing for us to unpack, even though I hate the word unpack as well. But is this virtual world really, is this really a disruption, or is it just a continuation? Or is it just artists making do with what they have available as we normally do? One of our festival directors in South Africa is famous for saying that artists will always survive because we are like cockroaches. So even when the apocalypse hits us, we will be the ones surviving. And in one sense, that is true, but in the other sense, that's not a good thing. And we also have to ask the question in terms of disrupting and disobedience when we create new work. Are we just re-normalizing something that's been incredibly destabilizing in the world for all of us? So taking all of that back to the question about how do you approach your local community? Currently, we're sitting in my organization with funding applications for next year. So all of these things that I'm mentioning, we are sitting and grappling with it. How do you disrupt existing spaces? How do you monetize the work? How do you decide on work that is truly engaging with this notion that there is a new normal? But the new normal that we're all talking about is actually just referring to how do we go back to the old normal? So how quickly can we get back to how things were, and how can we all function in a world that feels safe and where the 1% is carrying on and the 99% is just going further and further into poverty. So people are asking, how do we get back to the new normal? They're asking us, how do we get back to that as quickly as possible? But I think that, yes, a virtual world is an amazing opportunity for us to address that. But at the same time, we really need to look at how the form and the content really speak to each other. So before you get to the monetizing, we really need to ask ourselves, is this virtual environment really a good thing? Are we really, really disrupting, or are we just re-normalizing? And I know these are not answers, but I can just say that's something that currently when artists ask me, what should they submit? What would we be interested in funding next year? It's a real conflict between, we want people to be able to create work that they can make a living from. So there's always a commercial element to everything that we do, and we have to be honest about that. But at the same time, maybe this is the time for all of us to say, well, next year we're going to fund work that is really in your face. So that's, and I had this discussion with the festival director like 5 minutes before we started this panel discussion. And he's saying that he's got something really interesting in the works. Would we be interested in funding it? And the only thing I could think of to say is, well, if not now, then when? I mean, how big of a global crisis do we need in order for us to say that the new normal is really not acceptable?
Thank you for that. There is
Maybe
this...
can I sorry, Monique.
Yes, go ahead, Tunde.
No, I just wanted to kind of amplify what Cornelia is saying, because that's exactly how I feel these days, is that, you know, we really have to kind of, you know, question the fact that, you know, the new normal is, there is no new normal. Actually, this is work that we should have been doing years ago. You know, especially when you link this to kind of the anti-colonial work that a lot of people have been doing, and the anti-colonial work that has been present, but we, you know, especially cultural institutions and cultural players in general, haven't paid enough attention to. You know, so let's stop talking about the new normal. Let's talk about things that have already been here, but we just did not pay attention to, we didn't amplify. In addition to that, you know, one of the things that that really kind of resonates with me, also Cornelia touched on this, is, you know, the online space. We need to really be careful, you know, and Michelle Miller-Fisher, who's a curator in Boston, heard about her through this podcast called Points of Entry. Michelle Miller-Fisher talks about how, you know, museums, because she works in the museum sector. Museums are basically need to be careful to not colonize the online space. So I think that that's kind of what we really have to question. You know, like it's great that we're trying to find innovative ways to do our work now, but maybe we need to kind of really take this moment to, you know, slow down even more and really kind of think about making things smaller. You know, so what you said, Monique, about the hyper-local, I think that that's a start. But of course, you know, I think that, you know, as your question also infers, we can't, and also the work that we're still trying to do with Haven for Artists in Beirut, we cannot forget about, you know, the importance of solidarity. We can't forget about the importance of the work that we do with each other and how we kind of grow, you know, through kind of our practices and sharing our practices.
Thank you. Before you jump in, Hope, I wanted to just quickly say, just lift up the idea of disruption, disobedience, anti-colonial work that often can be triggering for some institutions to feel like, okay, that's political or that's dangerous or that's disruptive, in a way that is only for a courageous audience or brave audience that is smaller or on the fringe. You know, that's basically how fringe art started and festivals started, is this work did not fit in the Royal Opera House, so let's do fringe. So now I think there's a real opportunity for artists to move their work to center, because you have the power. Institutions are closed. So I'd love to get your point, Hope, and also thinking about monetization. If you guys are using Cash App or Venmo or any other monetizing platform, so that the money and the resources come directly to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have a new global colonial master, who is COVID-19. Nobody has answers around this colonial master who has come and crushed all these borders. In our country, we call it, in Rwanda, we call it a boiling pot of cultures. You have like the German influences, you have the French influences, you have Belgian, you have the British, you have ABC, XYZ. You have a young generation that does not speak one fluent sentence in one language. All these languages are just these countries, you find them embedded in their one sentence. And the question of, are we normalizing the abnormal, is, for me, unfortunately, that is the truth. If we define the new norm as the abnormal, then we have to, because we have to face the real truth of the current music going on now. We have to face the truth that technology has moved into the human space. That technology has divided the world in different continents. We have a continent called Instagram that has taken all our young generations. So if you are thinking of legacy and planting that seed for tomorrow, if you're going to create work that is disconnected to this audience, because think of the attention span as well. You can hardly have a 16-year-old sitting in a space without touching something because they're used to touching screens. You know, what kind of content are we creating for them? Because they'll never come to physical spaces, because physical spaces, because of also commercial needs, they had pushed out our people. That pushed out people could not afford tickets to watch performances. But if we can, for me, how do we go to these new territories? You know, how do you tap on the politician on Twitter? How do you grab the young person who is truly embedded in Instagram? How do you go to Snapchat? How do you, for me, this is the new map of where humans are now living. And we have to look for a way to embrace that reality. Personally, I'm a physical person because I do a lot of art for healing, and I love to touch. I love to draw energy from people's eyes. I love to hug and we cry together. I was very skeptical of what kind of content do I put out there? Is it safe space, number one? Because I'm talking about stories of like mass rape, you know, testimonies about mass rape of victims that are still alive. You know, I'm talking about stories that are very grave. I was really skeptical. How do we take a festival that is talking about fresh wounds right now? What if my story gets out there and it becomes content for bullying? It was not a safe space for the kind of content we curate in our festivals, but I was shocked to see how the global trend of emotions that did not have color, did not have continents. The emotions came where fear, isolation, depression, and there's no depression for Chinese or for Rwandese. There's no fear for Japanese or American. Fear is fear. Pain is pain. How do we tap on this pain? And I don't see the world getting better in 2 years mentally. There's going to be mental exhaustion. And if a body is not healed, it will never function well. So the kind of content we have to bring on board is like, okay, we need to commercialize it, of course, we need to do all this, but there's a problem. The audience we are thinking about may not be the audience, the audience we are targeting may be having different layers after COVID. Humans have transformed into other things because of what we are all going through. I don't know any human that is not having a thorn pricking them in their hearts with pain. We need to see how do we bring healing works on board, but at the same time commercialize them. Everybody is broke. So if we go to charge, so who will pay for this? We need to be very strategic, and we need to have that level of empathy. You know, where are we? Do we feel before we move? So before we can strategize, let's first walk like a crab, feel and then walk, feel and then walk. Not like, oh, it used to be like this and we used to do like that. Oh, this is the new abnormal. But it's the reality. And every minute the clock ticks, time rolls by, and we've lost time in listening to questions within that we have no answers for.
Thank you. I'd like to think about a point that you made in healing and how the arts play a role now in healing. And it's one of those unquantifiable, intangible elements of art. We know that art moves, art transforms, but it's one of those things, and Cornelia, you might be able to help us with this in funding applications. How do you articulate that? How do you articulate that the work that your community needs right now is work that fosters healing and transformation? So I think I love that you amplified that for us. What we're all feeling, you know, we're trying to move forward and get along and expand and grow and stay healthy. And at the same time, there's a layer of, there is a layer of fear. There is a layer of the unknown.
Sure. I, I think you will see in the comments, I think people are also, are naming it in terms of what the arts can do, and that is empathy. And I've always said, and I come from a performance art background, so theatre is my realm, but there are other artistic realms as well. But I've always said that the theatre is the one space where you can really teach people empathy, because they are forced to experience other people's lived experiences. And I think that as much as we can talk about all these other things, if we can use the arts as a tool for teaching people empathy, especially now, because I think we're all going to emerge from this current situation being scared of other human beings. And we see it when we walk on the street, when you go to the shop. I mean, you don't want other people too close to you. And the thought of sitting in a theater next to somebody else, I mean, that's scary to people. So how can we use the arts to encourage people to say, well, you know, it takes us back to the conversation that we are always having in the arts about how do you teach people about the other and the other's experience. So I think that's one aspect of how we can use the arts for healing. I think, as always, the discussion is about how marginalized communities get access to systems and to funding. So I think even more so, that's going to be a huge part of the discussion, is how do you bring the marginalized into, I don't want to use the word mainstream, but into, you know, systems whereby they have easier access. We've had a conversation last week about funding models currently and relief funding models. Through my organization, I'm also involved in a relief fund. But the question beckons for how long can we as artists and artistic communities rely on relief funds before we say enough is enough? Now we want to work and we want to earn funding and money for what we do. So I think it's as always a nuanced and difficult conversation, but it will rely on empathy. It will rely on people, and I see some of the comments about brave audiences and brave producers and brave funders and brave artists. And it is a difficult time for artists. I see it with the proposals that we are receiving. People are telling us, I feel deflated. The artists are saying, I'm not finding inspiration, because as artists, we find inspiration from each other and through our interaction as communities. So artists are feeling like they are not creatively stimulated. So how do we make it clear to people that, yes, you can be brave, you can do the difficult work, you will get funding, there will be audiences. And again, I really do not have the answers, but yeah, I think it's a combination of all of these things that our audience is also highlighting at the moment.
Yeah, maybe just to kind of add to that a little bit. So one of the things that we've been, with some of the folks I'm working with here, we've been talking about a lot is kind of maybe we need to focus less on occupying the center and more about, you know, taking resources that the center and institutions and established players have, taking those resources and redistributing them to the margins. You know, I think that the margin, just to kind of touch on what you were asking earlier, Monique, that the margins don't necessarily need to come to the center. I mean, if they want to, they can. But, you know, there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of beautiful work being created in the margins, and maybe the reason why maybe the margins need to stay in the margins to do the real essential work of serving, you know, the community, or creating the avant-garde, or creating, you know, kind of innovation, you know. So I think that the focus maybe has to be on redistributing funds that large institutions have, you know, definitely creating, I mean, at least in the, I guess you could say in the European, Western European context, and maybe also in the US context, you know, creating a base.
Oh, Tunde, you're breaking up and freezing.
Is that, you know, the money is there, it's just.
Your last point, you just broke up, Tunde.
Unfortunately, in a cafe. Oh yeah, I was just saying that. Yeah, that we have to, just this idea of redistributing of funds, and that we can't act like we don't have the money, at least in Western Europe, So we really have to think deeply about, a basic income for artists, and also we have to think deeply about, some of the things that's happening, in the UK, the US, people talking about defunding, certain institutions, people talking about, defunding, the military security state. If we can kind of tap into that and say, okay, if we defund police, or for example, find a new creative way of, feeling safe amongst each other, that money that we use, that we've defunded, that we can use for creating artistic.
We can use the money to create artistic, okay. We have about, I think, 10 or 12 minutes, I can't believe it. Some of the conversations that are happening on the chat are asking about the digital space and the ability to connect. Can you feel through a screen? Can you feel the art through the screen? I wanted to ask you all, are you thinking also about, is it requiring you to think about your work through the lens of being a filmmaker? Or, because if everything is on digital, how much Zoom boxes can we actually consume and feel and be transformed by? Secondly, are you creating communities in the digital space with other artists and institutions? And is that a space to kind of R&D this future that we're creating right now? Has that been created? Is that something that might be a platform for play and experimentation? And also the monetizing. I wanted to ask about the monetization of digital work. Here in the States, a lot of artists are using Cash App and Venmo and other platforms. Is that something that is available to artists on the continent at all? And how are you creating community in the digital space? Lastly, residencies, which is something that I'm very interested in. Is this an opportunity for us to think about residencies while we're in this space that might require one or two people and not a company? Or it could require a company, but a residency could also be the company in one space that is not interacting with an audience or other staff members, where you can be socially distant or safe in that way in terms of health. And that's for anyone and everyone.
I'll go, Monique. I think, as Hope so clearly stated, we have been afforded the privilege of creating online communities now, which we I mean, I've attended PACE from the beginning, and I think PACE Entangled is extremely vibrant. And so clearly there are projects and events where the online world really does cater to the needs of the project. So I think that this has demonstrated to us that residencies do not only need to be a company or one person who physically attends, in another space, but that these things can happen virtually. And I think especially for something like a Pan-African experience, that's going to be extremely helpful and useful. And I hope that that continues as well. But maybe I'm too old, but the virtual space and social media, Instagram, Facebook, I mean, I don't even want to start on TikTok, but I really do not think that these virtual platforms are actually helping us as a civilization or as a society. I think because of the disconnect that happens, people are genuinely losing the ability to engage with other human beings. I mean, it's not necessary for me to name examples, because I think we're all aware of the world that we are currently living in, and how easy it is to do things anonymously on the internet. And I really caution against us as artistic communities moving in that direction. But I think there are parts of our and elements of our working and dealing with each other that can take that form from now on. We shouldn't lose that it can be a useful tool for us, especially when it comes to residencies. I think we've all learned that we can connect with people via Zoom and AirMeet and Teams and whatever else is available if we have to. And I think that is a good thing. But recreating the artistic expression of something online, for me, that's where the content of what you're trying to create really needs to connect with the form that you are using. And I'm interested in seeing how South African artists are going to respond to that next year.
Thank you. I see in the chat, Fumi has offered the comment that we are in a space to create collectives digitally. And this is an opportunity for artists, as you've mentioned as well, Cornelia, to not be in a physical space, but in a digital space, to create collectives, to share ideas. And so I'm excited about that as well. And we have experienced in our institution that not all platforms are right for all genres. Instagram is not the place for music, even though it's an exciting space, but the plugins and all of the technology, it wasn't built for content that actually gives you the sound quality that you need. So we also have to factor those things in. That might be where it's an exciting platform and there's a lot of eyeballs on Instagram, but it really is not an adequate platform to present art and culture. Any of the other panelists? I think we have just a few minutes. I want to make sure that you guys get your thoughts in. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much, Monique. It is so fantastic. I just wanted to piggyback on what Cornelia said earlier about, artists and their inspiration. I think that that's another angle that we have to critically look at. The fact that everybody is forgetting that the artist is first a human being who has needs, who has a family, who has, emotional well-being to take care of and all of that as well. A man cannot give what he does not have. Before you can give empathy, there must be some measure of emotional stability from you. This last 5 months have shown that a lot of artists didn't earn any income. Who's thinking about that? And the last report I read from WHO or something said something about artists were not listed as one of the essential services during this COVID-19, even though we contributed 64% in the mental health and well-being of people, Netflix and the likes. So that's very critical. Who's thinking about the artist, who's creating the work, who's thinking about the artist and his community as we're developing work for technology. I don't trust technology for theater and all of that. I don't. I have to be very honest, because it takes away the humanity. And in a couple of years, some artificial intelligence is going to take over somehow. I know that for certain. So that's just critical thinking that we should be looking at as well. Who's thinking about the artist? We should, as we go about developing work, the realities for Nigerian artists are very different. Funding is not a luxury that we have here, so it's quite difficult accessing funds for creating work or, making work for developments to take online or abroad and all of that. It's very, very difficult to get funding to create the work. So creating work for the digital space, you're thinking about the platform to put it on. A lot of people have been alienated during these 5 months of these digital interactions because they didn't have money to buy data, for instance, So if we say that, this is the new normal, in quotes, we have to be very, very careful about how we navigate those thoughts. That's my submission. And thank you very much, Monique. It's been fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Kenneth. When you talk about, I mean, data is real. I am fortunate to travel a lot, and that's one of the first things you do when you get to a country is figure out, how to get your phone to work locally so that your data isn't $1 million when you get back home. So that's one challenge in terms of audiences accessing content in a longer form than 10 minutes. You're using data. So that's something to think about. And do you use any of the crowdsourcing platforms as a fundraising tool for your work? And is this an opportunity to expand that this time?
We've never really explored that option because it's in the way people look at it over here. When you put out crowdfunding and all of that, there's a certain look to it, and sort of chipping your project, and people tend to turn their noses down at it, like you're asking for donations and people to pitch into. So we're better at talking to corporates for sponsorships, and even though that's very tough, but our greatest sort of funding has come from development partners such as institutions such as the British Council, Growth Institute, and the likes. We've gotten venue partners who have believed in the project and say, okay, we can use this space since you're working through, you're trying to do repurposed, you're trying to repurpose spaces for theater and all of that. We can give you this space for next to nothing because we believe in your craft or believe in the vision that you're trying to create for the community and all of that. So those are the kind of partners we've done. But crowdfunding, no, it has some undertone to it that we're not even trying to go to.
That's a fascinating point because culture and cultural norms or what's traditional in some cultures impacts where funding comes from. I have, there's a project that I'm working on with an Afro-Swedish hip hop artist, and in talking to some of the funders in Sweden, they have the same response. Crowdfunding, asking citizens to support the arts is frowned upon. That's the government's job to fund the arts. And that's why taxpayers, your taxes go to the arts to fund the arts. So we also have to think about that when we think about the digital space. Not every country and culture will support that kind of funding sources. Tunde and Hope, do you have some final thoughts? I see I'm getting I'm getting the sign that we're going to move into our,
How does
that
come?
How
does that come virtually? So I was just going to say, definitely with artists here, they've got the challenges are global. We don't have like the infrastructure for audiovisual content. That is, internet is bizarre, it is scenario of scenarios, but you have to look for situations and funders that can help you get sports that have this kind of infrastructure. But again, I don't know, created differently. I've just refused to become a slave of things I have no solutions for. Since I was born, I have the same challenges here today about funding, about this. I've had them when I was 5 years old, and I'm now an old woman, and they're still there. So what do I do? Die and wait, or die, or tap on my muscle to stay alive? And I think for me, this opportunity, we should look at it as a window to resituate, to rethink, to reshift, to recreate, because it's coded in our blood. Because, as somebody, I think it's Cornelia who said that artists will survive regardless. We are that cactus tree in desert storms, and regardless of the problems we have, we will still live. So for me, I'm just that kid chasing butterflies in the wilderness. And I love that feeling. It makes me feel good and alive.
Thank you so much. I want to thank
Maybe
Nike for inviting me.
A small, tiny thing.
You have to make it quick. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just a point of solidarity that, like I appreciate, the strength that everyone has, but I think that, institutions, once again, in where I'm at, for example, in Belgium, in England, have a responsibility. I hear of some, I have a German colleague in Munich who's actually thinking about sending some of the funding that she gets to partners and producers in the global South. You know, so I think that we have to really think about innovative ways to be in solidarity with each other. I mean, you know, we can use crowdfunding and stuff like that, but if we can find other ways to be in solidarity, especially if we still have the means in places like Germany, in places like Belgium, we should really tap into that.
Thank you. I agree. So we now have a community. We've created a community during this conversation. I look forward to being in touch with you all. All of the panelists' information, it's on the website at PACE. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been an honor to be a part of this conversation. And now I will turn it over to Ricardo Peach.
Hi, thank you everybody. And thank you so much, Monique, and all the panelists for this extraordinary conversation. We've had amazing feedback both here and in WhatsApp and on Facebook about this conversation. Thank you very much. Next up is our daily artistic intervention. Today it's Gift Ganza from Zambia. It's a PACE Entangled creative intervention. You just asked to please turn off your video and turn off your microphones just to start off with. Our kind of behind the scenes person, Isabel, will do that automatically as well. So don't be frightened if your video or microphone gets turned off, but if you can do it yourself, that's fine. So now I hand over to Gift Ganza from Zambia.
Long walk to freedom. We should all be feminists. The old drift. Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I want you to do something for me. Just take a piece of paper. Everybody that is in here now, including the delegates, take a piece of paper and a piece of pen. So this is what you do. You're going to draw your country down. You're going to put the place of your country down, and then you're going to indicate the location where you are. So when you do that, I want you to think about which country you want to connect to. And then put that down, and then you can take pictures afterward. So again, if you can see me, I want you to stand somewhere where you're comfortable. Everybody here. Okay. Okay, I can't see all of you, but I'll just imagine everybody that is in here is standing. And just say this: I am very special. There is nothing wrong with me.
I am very
special. There is nothing wrong with me.
Come on. I am very special. There is nothing wrong with me.
I am very
special.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Nothing wrong with me.
Nice. I am very special. There is nothing wrong with me.
I am very
special. There's nothing wrong with me.
Nothing wrong with me.
Okay, now on 3, 2, 1, I want all of you to scream, yeah? So when I say 3, 2, 1, go, you just scream it out. Okay, 3, 2, 1, yeah! Okay, switch off your mics and your audios. But these ones, why are they still making noise? You are disturbing my interventions.
Thank you so much for that from the gift Ganza from Zambia. If you can all unmute yourselves quickly and let's just give them a very big clap.
Yay!
Wow, wonderful.
Yay!
Well, guys. Beautiful.
Well done.
Bravo!
Well
Nice
done.
one, guys.
Great job.
Beautiful.
So layered.
Thank you so much, Gift. Ganza from Zambia. And,
Thank you.
We'll be seeing them touring the globe very soon, thanks to all the delegates here in Zoom with us today. So don't forget their name. Gift Ganza from Zambia. I'm just quickly going to do some housekeeping notes. The next, at 3 o'clock, we've got a half-hour personal break, food, and run around the block time to prepare yourself for the 3 o'clock workshop / pitch session called the Pan-African Telematic Art and Curatorial Bootcamp sessions, hosted by Comparero Shapfika from Zimbabwe and Tegan Bristow from South Africa. There'll be 11 pitches, small pitches by artists from around Africa doing work dealing with technology. So I think you'll be very interested to kind of have a look at the kinds of new forms of interventions that these artists have come up with using technology, the new generation of work using computer-based creations. Then at 4 o'clock, you will have the option to do one of 2 workshops. So choose your workshop. There are 2 different Zoom links. You'll have to choose which Zoom link you want to go to take you to that specific workshop. The first workshop is Modern Contemporary Dance and Introduction to Ballroom or Vogue Genres with the Kervan Fortuin Foundation. We are very privileged and proud to be participating and working with the Kervan Fortuin Foundation. Kervan unfortunately was lost to us this year in June, and we honor his memory today by working with the Kervan Fortuin Foundation to in particularly work with young LGBTQI communities in Africa to develop their art form practices and also find a home for themselves. The second workshop is Art Financing from Fundraising to Sustainability with Wafa Belhasem from Tunisia. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So you can choose one of those 2 workshops and then after those workshops, join us again online around 4:45 South African Standard Time in our very popular PACE online lounge in AirMeet. We had a few technical issues in AirMeet for our presentations yesterday, but that's all been sorted. So now AirMeet is open for networking, where you can join tables of 8 and meet and greet people. You do, however, need to do that from your laptop and preferably through Chrome. So if you have any issues, let us know. We'll try and help you sort that out. And in the online AirMeet PACE Lounge tonight, you'll also meet some of the new PACE New Voices artists who you will see on the program. So their names are in the program if you go to the website, and you'll be able to get to meet them tonight as well. So please join us at 4 o'clock for the first workshop, the Pan-African Telematic Art workshop. Then at 4 o'clock, 2 other workshops, Kervan Fortuin and Art Financing, and then later tonight, the online lounge at 4:45. That's it from me. Please join us in WhatsApp, and thank you everybody for the extraordinary conversations today, which has been recorded and live streamed both on HowlRound. Wonderful. Welcome everybody to the Pan-African Telematic Art Project pitching session, where we have our partners, the Fakagezi Festival through the Curatorial Bootcamp, and also the University of the Free State's Program for Innovation and Art Form Development project along with us here with the 11 people who will be pitching around work that deals with digital and telematic art from the African continent. I'm going to hand over to Tutukane Nhlobo, who's been managing this project. He's also the Assistant Director of the Literature Festival of the Vrystaat Arts Festival, who will be introducing the two facilitators, and then they will be introducing the artists. Thank you very much to Tukani.
All right, afternoon, everyone. As stated, my name is Tuturani, but everyone else calls me TK. And as Dr. Ricardo Peach stated, I am the Vrystaat Literature Festival Assistant Coordinator. It's been interesting with this project. It's been interesting getting to see what the artists have been planning in terms of their pitches and in terms of what they have been working on or what they want to work on. And we have two facilitators who are going to facilitate. We have a host. We have, all the way from Zimbabwe, we have Kombo Chapfika. He's a multidisciplinary visual artist born and raised in the capital city of Harare. He studied in Atlanta, Georgia in the United States. That's where he did his economics. He studied economics quite a while back. He's mostly a self-taught artist, but he believes art transcends any singular medium and that each discipline informs the other. So he's got quite a lot of work in terms of virtual reality, and he's worked in animation, advertising, broadcast, web development, and fine art. And yeah, he has quite a long bio and a long list of accomplishments that he has under his name. And then we also have Dr. Tegan Bristow. She is the director of the Fagogesi African Digital Innovation Festival since 2016. She's also the senior lecturer in interactive digital media at the Wits School of the Arts, with a specialization on African art, culture, and technology, and editor-in-chief and digital editor of the Ellipsis Journal for Creative Research. So yes, we have two amazing hosts who are going to take us through this pitch session. As stated previously, we have 11 artists who are going to pitch their projects, but Tegan and Kombo will just give kind of like a brief as to what people can expect and to which countries these artists are actually representing. So just a reminder to all the artists pitching, remember you only have 2 minutes each. Do not forget to unmute yourself when it's your turn. What we're going to do is the hosts are going to call and mention the first 4 artists who will then pitch, and then after the first 4, he will then call the second batch of artists who will then pitch. And then at the end, the audiences will be able to, share their, if they have any questions. We'll have a mini Q&A at the end. So if you're also on Facebook, feel free to share your comments and we will try and answer as many at the end. Without wasting any more time, Kombo and Tegan, but I'll ask Tegan to just maybe give a brief as to where the artists are from and what they're representing in terms of the countries that are represented today.
Hi, thank you, TK. Thanks very much. Kombo is also in there somewhere. So just as a kind of quick overview of how we're managing our hosting of the session, is that I will just give an overview of what's happening, and then Kombo will be the person introducing all the artists and also naming them as they come through. So a little bit of an overview. In 2020, the Fagogesi African Digital Innovation Festival, of which I'm the director, hosted something called the Digital Art Curators Bootcamp. And the reason we ran the Digital Arts Curators Bootcamp is because we realized in the work that we've been doing in this space over the last few years that there's a dearth of people who curate, organize, and produce digital art on the continent, meaning that we basically, there's lots of support for digital artists, there's lots of work happening for digital artists, but there's not enough of the intermediary kind of position. So someone who can hold together, curate, speak about, write about, and bring forward the work of digital artists. So the candidates who will be presenting to you today, there are 5 of them that are from the Fagogesi Curators Bootcamp, were 5 selected from 30 people who joined the bootcamp, and then 20 people who pitched for exhibitions. These 5 were the top 5 exhibitions that we chose, and the exhibitions will form part of the Fagogesi festival this year, but they're also important people within this realm that we hope that you will hear and understand, and hopefully give them more opportunities to produce work for digital arts on the continent. Following this, the other presenters are from the respective PACE program, sorry, not PACE program, the PIAD, and what's Ricardo's calling the Pan-African Telematic Art Project, which is a really exciting opportunity for people to pitch work specifically for sort of telematic engagement. And there are two winners that we selected that I think fall underneath what we, as in like a panel which I form part of, not we, Fagogeti Festival, that fall underneath the Vrystaat Arts Festival and the PATAP program, and then there are I think 4 more that fall underneath the PACE program in the same way, pitches for online and digital work, which we're very excited about seeing today. So together they're making a really extraordinary group of people who are really pushing the boundaries of what digital art can be in Africa, and I hope you appreciate their presentations today, because I think they're all extraordinary. I'm going to hand over to Combo to start the introductions and also of himself. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. We have an exciting lineup of artists and projects. So I think since we are limited for time, I want to jump into it. If everyone is ready. First up, we have Deidre Yantes, who's here with the PAD program, and she'll be pitching Stories in the Wind. Please go ahead, Deidre, when you're ready.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Deidre Yantes. I'm a producer and a writer and also director. Today I'll be talking about Stories in the Wind, which in Afrikaans is Stories in die Wind. It's I'm pitching a 60-minute animation that focuses on pre-colonial indigenous story. The genre is magic realism, and it focuses on a female protagonist. So the story follows a Nama and Afrikaans language story of a young girl from Richtersveld in Southern Africa that was born with a gift to communicate with the rain, animals, and also plants. Her gift is to bless the Nama people in the future for when there is a dryness. The rain no longer comes to the land, and the people then have to look for ways for them to find a way to speak to the rain. And the young girl is then sent to speak to the rain. So she follows this journey as she goes to speak to the rain. The story is a big part of who I am, and also a big part of African stories and indigenous stories that I believe we should be telling. The duration of creating this animation is, we would like for it to be turned into a 60-minute animation in 3 months. I will be narrating it alongside with amazing animators. The story is also, the cost for the story that we're looking at is 250,000 Rand, which is not much, but we believe that if we work in an intimate space with amazing people that sees the story and that understands the story and also understands the indigenous history, it will be an amazing story. So yeah, our vision for the story is to be featured and be screened in theater and film festivals. So yeah, that is Stories in the Wind. Our target audience is also children aged between 8 to 17. I believe that the older generation also actually can relate a lot to the story. So that is Stories in the Wind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deirdre. That was a great presentation. All right. Our next artist and project is Elizabeth Efua Sutherland. She's here with the FBC program and pitching Time, Earth, Death. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hi. Okay. Hello. My name is Elizabeth Efua Sutherland. I'm from Accra, Ghana, and I run an experimental art-based cultural altar. I'm also the co-director of the Accra Theatre Workshop. And so storytelling is a big part of my practice as an artist, and I've started to curate more recently. So Time, Earth, Death is short for Time, the Earth, and Death are living things as stories are, which is a crowdsourced, co-created digital storytelling exhibition. It maps stories from different parts of the continent, from individuals, but also from the viewpoint of folk tales, personal histories, personal recountings, adages. And the aim is to kind of come to a new collective understanding of what it means to be African now in this age of pandemic and social distancing. And it's also going to share my slides to this. It has some clickable links if you'd like some more information. But what I'm really hoping to evoke is this idea of memories of words that we speak over fires, communal memories of folk tales that we experience in different spaces that have now moved into online forums like web rooms, chat rooms. And the format of the exhibition is going to be a website. So visitors will experience the journey led by one of Griot from different parts of the continent. There's going to be art by Uphopho, who's here, some of the sketches that he's going to be doing for the exhibition. And we have Niwe Kiza, who is also pitching in this project as part of one, and we have Ogutu Muraya, we have Nana Sase from Ghana, so it's griots from different parts of the continent. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what the project is. It's a website, so we're hoping to, you can contact me using the details on the PDF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Yeah, that was a great presentation. I feel like you tried really hard to stay within the limits there, and you really got all that stuff through. Thank you very much. Okay. Next up, we have Faye Kabali Kagwa with the Fakugesi Curator Bootcamp Program, and she'll be pitching Dear Us Matric 2020. Please go ahead, Faye.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Faye Kabali Kagwa. I am of Ugandan descent, but I currently live in Cape Town, South Africa. I am an aspiring curator, an arts coordinator, a writer, and an arts producer of experimental artistic interventions. And I'm one of the 5 winners of the Fakugesi Digital Art Curator Bootcamp. The exhibition that I will be presenting, or curating rather, is Dear Us, Matric 2020, a WhatsApp status-driven exhibition platform. Dear Us, Matric 2020 speaks to the lives of 5 South African teenagers living through a global pandemic at what should be the pinnacle of their schooling career. It centralizes a moment shared by many, matriculation, while allowing the audience to identify and empathize with individual stories from the Matric 2020 class using a platform that is familiar to many. These stories will be collaborative creations by the students and 3 visual and digital artists, Makgotso Lamola, Kamogelo Tselane, and Barry Christensen. These stories will then be shared on a WhatsApp status as an exhibition. Khotso is an artist and spatial practitioner based in Cape Town. Her work focuses on investigations into the in-between spaces of disciplines and on notions of emotional landscapes and urban realities. It's this awareness of the interplay between structure and lived experience that makes Lamola a dynamic collaborator for the Matric students in this project. Barry is a documentary photographer and photojournalist whose images allow for a complex understanding of his subjects that challenge our preconceptions. Barry, together with the Matric students, will present images of the world as they see it, whereas Tselane Kamogelo is a digital artist and game designer currently completing her honors degree at the University of Wits University. As a student, Kamo holds an interesting position as a representation of a possible future for the 5 featured Matric students. And her background in animation and game design allows for an exploration of alternate realities and possibilities. What's unique about the exhibition and what excites me is the use of WhatsApp, which is the most widely used and downloaded app on the continent. not only will we be utilizing it as an exhibition space, but also a site for activation and engagement with our core audience. I'm excited to be using a familiar low-tech platform to explore digital possibilities and really stretch our understanding of digital exhibitions on the continent.
Fantastic pitch. Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you. Really enjoyed that. All right, moving it along. It's a lot of awesomeness, guys. I hope you have very good memories. Next up, we have Kagiso Kekana from the PIAD program pitching My Internal Oppression. Please go ahead, Kagiso.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kagiso Kekana from South Africa. I am presenting my internal oppression. My internal oppression is a musical theatrical piece, which is based on gender-based violence, which is an issue that is being faced by people all over the world. 1 in 3 women are experiencing or have experienced physical, sexual, and emotional violence, in their lifetime. And what people are not aware of is that gender-based violence can have serious emotional and repercussions that lead to permanent psychological trauma and issues such as isolation, depression, and anxiety. And also there's also issues that are not being openly addressed. As a result, many women are being left to die a slow death, or rather a slow internal death. So the work created comes as a result of the unspoken internal that women experience from an emotional and psychological abuse. So the piece envisions the internal language and thoughts that occur in the mind of the victim. It fuses spoken word and song, and it is an ideation of digital commotion as well. It is a multi-sensory approach that is very intimate, and it takes place in a domestic bedroom setting where the lead performer, myself, is dressed in physical clothing or costume that supports the interactive spoken words and musicals, the response of the special effects and activities throughout the performance piece, which runs from 20 to 40 minutes long and is presented at 80% in English and 20% in isiZulu. It is for all ages and can be performed at any indoor setting. Yeah, that's all I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kagiso. That was great. All right. Next project and artists are Karen Tan and Squai Quadling. They're here with the PIAD program, and they will be pitching DigiCleanse. Please go ahead.
Hi, we are Squai and Karen, and we are entrepreneurs and the founders of an up-and-coming digital wellness brand.
We are so excited to have been invited here today to talk to you about DigiCleanse. DigiCleanse is a wellness and lifestyle brand whose main focus is to lighten your digital load.
Are you struggling to focus on what is going on IRL? Is your physical health being affected by the amount of time you're spending online? Do you suffer from digital fatigue?
I know I do.
Well, if you have answered yes to any of these questions, then you have a healthy relationship with your devices. Don't worry, DigiCleanse is here for you. We have developed a series of products and services that can help counter some of the negative effects of excessive digital use. Not only do these products and services assist with purifying your mind, they're beautifully crafted with natural materials to ground you and to bring some healing, natural energy into your life. We brought along one of these products today that we would like to show you.
Do you ever feel like you can't put your phone down even for a second? Well, we've developed the iStone to help you with just that. Like a nicotine patch soothes the itch of the avid smoker, the iStone was designed to alleviate our dependency on our smartphone without replacing it or making it redundant. Made out of 100% marble, polished and beveled to fit in your hand exactly like the iPhone. The iStone has been carefully designed to soothe your muscle memory without the distractions of the digital device. Products like this and much, much more will be available for purchase on our upcoming online shop, digicleanse.co.za, which will be launching in October this year. Thank you for your time. We look forward to be part of your digital wellness journey in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was a great pitch, and I actually like how pitchy it was. All right, we have to keep things moving along. Up next, we have Lindiwe Machikiziwa, Lindiwe Machikiza from PATAP, pitching My Many Mouths. Apologies, Lindiwe, please go ahead.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm not me anyways. It's all good. I'm not me anyways. I'm one of. I'm not me anyways. A full-headed beast. I'm not me anyways. A full-headed beast. I'm not me anyways. A full-headed beast. Consisting of four. Consisting of incredible. Consisting of four. Consisting of four. Consisting of four. Consisting of four. Consisting trying to take you on an experience. An experience. An experience. An experience that will experience. An experience. An experience. Experience. What is a pitch exactly? How do we pitch from inside the tunnels of our minds? Where does it end? With what creatures? What will we find? You can always step away, enter the YouTube or the Google to find out more about us. If you're wearing headphones now, I hope your eardrums are giving way to your most powerful sound. And wherever you go, may you live, may you live, may you my many mouths, my many mouths, my many, 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 many mouths, my many mouths, my many mouths, my many mouths, my many mouths.
Thank you very much. Really embracing the media. Very performative pitch. Love it. Love it. That was great, Lindiwe. All right. You're here, guys. Continuing. Next up, we have Kensani Mkari. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead by one. Sorry about that. Sorry, Louise. Next up, we have Louise Kutze, and she's here with PATAP, and she'll be pitching De Ex Machina. Please go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you. The
The work I'm pitching today is Deus Ex Machina, a telematic performance that will merge dance with digital broadcast, distributed authorship, and real-time interaction. The form of the work has very much been inspired by the limitations that have been placed on live performance during this pandemic. And so it is my interest to see how we can use these limitations to create a new form of performative interactivity and an exciting participatory experience for the audience. So I can best describe Deus Ex Machina as a multiplayer game where the audience will get to control the dancers through their devices. At the moment, the work is being developed as a website-based that will be accessible via mobile devices, a mobile phone, and the site will present viewers with options along the way. And as these viewers make choices, those choices affect the actual unfolding of the work or the choreography in real time. The work is an expression of human geography, a search for finding connection within the chaos. It's looking at these random points of connection, and I think also trying to be a physical expression of connection during this time that we are using devices so much for connection. The work results in a series of public performances within Cape Town, and then of course being live streamed, these can be viewed from anywhere in the world as a real-time interactive experience for the audience. The work questions who is actually in control, man or machine.
Awesome. Thank you, Louise. That was great. I like the bringing together both the live element and the remote digital element. All right, keeping it moving. Next up, we have Kensani Mkari here with the Fakugesi Curators Bootcamp, pitching Misaba. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kensani Mkari. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, art curator, and diviner. My art exhibition is titled Masava, which is a Tsonga word for Mother Earth. Masava is an online space geared towards healing. The concept draws from Bantu Congo cosmology and sort of disrupts established interfaces of online exhibitions like virtual galleries, etc., by drawing from the cosmology, particularly through the use of a cosmogram as an exhibition interface. The works featured in the exhibition are geared towards healing and recuperation of the self and earth. It features artists like Tabita Rosari, Tiara Rebu, Gitu Meso, and Tinashe Musharavan. Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for that. Great pitch. So our next presenter is the Preempt group, Pumulani Ntuli and Bali Dlamini. They're here with the Fakugesi Curator Bootcamp, and they're pitching spatial fabrications. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mbali Dlamini. I am a member of Preempt Group. Preempt Group is a multidisciplinary collective facilitated by myself and Pumulani Ntuli. The group works within the intersection of archives and open source technologies using film, performance, and research. We engage diverse public audiences through workshops, attempting to make visible the pause of technology within decoloniality. We ask how open are open source technologies, particularly if analyzed within the lens of traditional culture. Our exhibition is titled Spatial Fabrication, An Uninhabitable World. The exhibition engages the screen, its politics, representation, land justice, and spirituality through various decolonial interactions. The 3 films that we will be looking at for this exhibition is Evictions by Themba Khumalo. It renders the landscape as witness to the injustice and complexities of contemporary Johannesburg. And the second film we'll be looking at is titled Ubuhlamba by me, Mbali Dlamini. And this film speaks to the notion of spirituality and decolonization within the African Independent Church gaze. The last film that we have included is called Godide by Phumlani Ntuli. The film references the archive and the concepts of Black futurity. Godide is a fictional character that goes to sea, almost as if to imagine a new world. This VR exhibition is essential to us actually creating a platform for all of this work that we've been doing through Preempt. And we hope that we can get other films to be part of our virtual reality exhibitions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your pitch. That was great. It's gonna be hard to pick these, huh? They're all really amazing. Next up, we have Sonia Rademeyer, and she's here with Payad, and she'll be pitching Sonic Redress. Please go ahead, Sonia.
Okay, can you see me? Hi, can you see me?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can. Excuse me, Sonia. I'm not sure. I can't hear you. I'm not sure if everyone else can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. I'm just waiting for the image and the sound piece to come on.
Amanzi asusa ububi bonke lawo lamazwi ongela qedu goma umhlophe.
Okay, Isabel, I'm not sure if we can still get the other image on, but the music you've just listened to is the singer Nonhlabe Dube from the album Mosuyua. And that is a South African adaptation of Hamlet in a multilingual South African context. The composer there is Franco Prinsloo, who is also the co-collaborator of Sonic Redress here. Alongside scientist and visual artist, VR/AR specialist Ben Outram from the UK, who has also developed the app Music Paint, which we'll be using in this project. We're also partnering with a music therapist, Anya Palyard, as this is primarily a sound and arts healing project across the continent. The concept is basically 5 compositions created by Franco, dealing with the 5 core emotions currently augmented during this pandemic globally: happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. And we will be asking participants to download the music app from the App Store. And then whilst listening to Franco's compositions, to choose one of the compositions they feel drawn to, and then to draw on the interface of their cell phones, drawings, or make drawings or paintings of those musical pieces, then to send them back to the website where I'll be curating them online. We are therefore pitching for financial resources. For two aspects of it. One is to commission 5 other African composers on the continent to contribute to this project. And secondly, to expand the app development of Music Paint to include Android users, as 86% of users on the African continent use Android and not iOS. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Very considerate of us Android users. Our final pitching artist is Zofa Wallace, here with the Fakugesi Curator UCAP, pitching Afrodelic PACE. Please go ahead.
Hi guys, hope you guys are good. My name is Zofa Wallace. I live in Durban, South Africa. I'm an anonymous creator, visual artist, and AR designer. And what the project I'll be pitching now is it's a working title called Afrodelic Trip a Digital World. And it presents themes influenced by African mysticism using augmented reality, showrooms, and social media face filters as a tool of interaction between humanity and the cosmic realms. The project is heavily influenced by an anonymous artist who's Johannesburg based. His name is Von Mash. And his digital artworks will have to take, the point is for his digital artworks to take us on journeys of an Afrodelic experience. And these are both, the project will be on Instagram and Facebook. And but since it's such accessible, these are 2 accessible apps, it allows the global community to connect to not only the artist and his background, but also his background and culture. And it gives, which were very less accessible before. It also inspires us and the global community to rethink what we thought we knew about Africa. It also inspires Africans to get exposed into the digital realm for artistic expression. So yeah, that's it for me. Oh, shout out to Lindiwe, that was an amazing pitch.
Thank you. Great pitch, Zofa. So those are the artists, curators, and their pitches. I hope everyone has really enjoyed that. Don't be shy. I'm requesting questions, so because we have a Q&A. I know it's a lot to take in, but I'm sure there are a lot of questions and more that the artists would like to say. So please share those either in the group on the Zoom chat, or you can PM me. That's fine, either way. Well, to get things started, I guess I'll ask, get it started, I guess. I'd like to ask Karen Tan and Sky Quadling about DigiCleanse. How did they come about this idea, and have they DigiCleansed themselves? And how do they feel about the conflict between, I'm assuming they're digital artists, or, go ahead.
So all of our products we test on ourselves first, of course. And we've created this business because both of us feel a sense of digital overload that we'd like to sort of remedy or ease a bit. And we thought that since we're developing these products for ourselves, we should share it with the world.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you got to test your own product, so we know it works. Still no questions. I feel like people are being shy. talking to you as artists. Do you have any questions on any of the projects that you saw? We're going to make it up as we go along, just to try to keep the dialogue going.
Hi, Combo. There is a question in the chat from Ricardo. There's a question.
Who is that question for? The question is, what international platforms do you think some of these works can be presented on? I'm not sure who it's directed to, though. That's from Ricardo.
I think anyone can answer at this point.
Actually, everyone, I guess. First come, first served. All right, then I'll have to pick someone. Going through here. I'd like to ask the preempt group. That way, at least you can share the troubles. Oh no, you're on your own right now. What do you think? Where do you think these works will be presented, and how that question relates to your project, Spatial Fabrications? Sorry to put you on the spot, but it's okay.
Hello, Tumlani here, also in support with Mbali for part of the preempt group. So basically, we've been kind of developing stop motion films. So like for us, at least, is an attempt to kind of have a conversation with like other new media technologies. So a virtual reality, it's kind of also like gateway. It's not necessarily like a VR in a sense of goggles. It's more within the interface of the screen. So it's like a web-based VR, which is another technological apparatus within virtual reality. So for us, it's kind of interesting because it's more flexible. People can at least still access it both with VR goggles and within the interface of the screen as well.
Yeah, I think having it accessible on the internet, that's where you can reach the broadest audience and not be too niche. Okay. We have a question here for Faye Kabali Kagwa. And the question is, how will storytelling be featured on WhatsApp? Will they be performed or narrated?
Thank you for your question. We'll be using the WhatsApp status for the exhibition. And you're not really allowed long videos. They're only about 30 seconds. And that probably would be, if we do go that route, it will be narration. But what I am looking at with Tegan is the idea of using WhatsApp voice notes as an activation for the exhibition, and then hopefully packaging that back to people as a kind of podcast. It's still quite nebulous at the moment, but that's where I'd like to take it. So keep your eyes glued to your screens and you'll find out more in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Right.
Really interesting use of the medium. All right, we have a question that's kind of open, and it's what do you think the implications of digital overload will be on future digital audiences? And it's who does that question jump out to? If you have something to say from our pitching people, please jump in there, or I will. The question is for Sonia, actually, I think, from reading the chat. Sonia, what do you think the implications of digital overload will be on future digital audiences?
Oh, exhaustion. I think that's kind of what I'm currently experiencing. As wonderful as it is, I am experiencing exhaustion at the moment with, being in the multiple Zooms. And I think that's where the physical presence does become very important, and finding ways to interface the physical with the technical side, which is what our project is really about. Just picking back onto that, I think that if we could get the funding to actually get 5 or 6 composers from the African continent to contribute to this project, we could really take it to an international level, to international festivals. and the scope really broadens.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I forget who it was, but someone talked about the difference between like high frequency but shallow experiences and like more rare but deep experiences, talking about digital media. And I feel like as we mature as creators and an audience, there's going to be a lot of changing and differentiation. We have a question here for Deidre. And the question is your reason for using the so-called forgotten artifact African dialect intended to be introduced to the masses? I'm not sure if I understand that question then, but Deidre, what is your reason for using the so-called forgotten African dialect intended to be?
I think now I get that question. I think the reason why I'm doing it is because languages like the new language, the Nama language, and the Khoikhoi languages are being sort of forgotten in a way, or they are dying out, as media is saying. The reason why I'm choosing it is because I feel like it's our responsibility, and a woman of color, like myself, it's my responsibility to sort of tell these untold stories and also to revive these historical narratives of the Khoi, the Nu, the Nama, and also to highlight the different tribes within the First Nation Indigenous people. So yes, for the animation, we're also going to do, I forgot to mention this, we're going to include subtitles written in Nama, the Nama language, so that people can sort of start understanding how to connect with the indigenous language.
Thank you, Deidre. Yeah, like, yeah, I feel that. I feel like a lot of modernity is very fast moving and like ahistorical. So I get excited when I see projects that tie current culture and forward-looking culture with our history and like, you know, our ancestors and all of that. So thank you. We have a question here for Lindiwe, and the question is, have you explored ambisonic sound for My Many Mouths? And I would expand that to like, how do you think about playing with sound?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can. Go ahead.
I'm going to open this up to the rest of my team. I know it was abstracted when I spoke, but we are really a collective of 4 working across plenty of different practices. But yes, sound is one of the things. We have a first draft of the piece that is available online, and developing the sound further into the 360 immersive space is certainly on our list of things that we want to extend and expand upon. Nikki, Vanessa, I don't know if you want to feed in.
Just briefly, I agree with Lindy. I think what's so exciting about kind of offering an immersion and a visceral experience that not isn't only textured, as you can see in our backgrounds, but experiential. I think a delicious intimacy kind of enters into the realm when we're all kind of in separate spaces. There's something so intimate about not only placing it within your headspace, but somewhere kind of in your experience. So yes, we are definitely exploring ambisonic sound.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, 3D sound, 360, that's a whole new world to explore, and it's very powerful. Okay, let's see what questions we have here. We have a question for Elizabeth Efua Sutherland, and the question is, well, firstly, thank you for your pitch. The question is, how have your audiences in Ghana responded to this new mode of storytelling that you're creating?
So this project actually came out of a bit of a response to 2 projects. The first one was a project called Nkano, which means what we used to know. And it was kind of interviewing Gold Coasters, so people who were born and lived in Ghana before we got our independence. And we've actually already had a series of live and recorded digital experiences. So that went down really well with people. People had a lot of fun. Storytelling here involves a lot of what we call total theater. So it's music and the text and spectacle. So that went down really well with people. And I also did, when the pandemic started, kind of crowdsourced local translations of the COVID awareness messages, because they were going out in like English and Tree, but there's like over 144 dialects. So we actually got, I think, 70 something translations from different people all over the country. And that kind of spirit of crowdsourcing narrative, I think really reflects our local storytelling culture, where we have people like Anansi and Anansi Sem, which is the stories that are about Anansi, and people can interrupt, you know, so it's not one storyteller, it's not one narrative, it's kind of this community and communal narrative, and that's why the project is co-created in the way that it is, so yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. That was a very thoughtful answer. Yeah, it got me thinking, yeah, these communal stories, that's kind of how mythology, you know, originated. That's how it's built. It's not one person that writes those stories. Looking at questions now. Actually, we may be out of time, but yes, we need to move on to the last phase of this. And Tegan is going to give an overview of digital innovation in Africa. Whenever you're ready, Tegan.
Hi, I think, yeah, thanks so much everybody for your extraordinary presentations. And I think what's really exciting about this location is that it's very new for a lot of us, but also quite old for a lot of us. I think all of you who pitched today have been working in some kind of media for some time. And I think the thing that we grapple with in South Africa, and the thing that we grapple with in other parts of the continent is the question of frame, and also like the importance of working with digital, which has, for me, over the years, shown to have different kinds of value than it does in Europe or in America, or sort of in the northern parts of the world, where the value is sort of so held to quite a strong sense of technology being firmly embedded in a sort of industrial formation of how the world works. And South Africa and different parts of Africa haven't quite had the same evolution, meaning that our digital encounters are something different and we want something different from them. And I think what's really exciting today is to see so much of the opportunities that people bring forward being about connecting and being about healing and being about telling stories that haven't been told before and in ways that they haven't been told before. And this is very, very exciting for me. And I think, yeah, keeping that top of mind is that the form of digital arts and the form of digital performances and the form of digital ways of doing and thinking from our context will always be our own and cannot actually be compared to sort of digital arts that you might see elsewhere, you know, which is hugely often quite generative and algorithmic driven, that people still very much form the center of how we're trying to work. And I'm excited about the prospects of that. And I really look forward to seeing these pieces grow and become really, you know, placeholders in how digital culture is understood globally. Yeah. I feel like I just riffed that off there, and I didn't really have anything prepared because I was really wanting to pull off what we were seeing and what we were hearing, and I'm very excited about that. And thank you, Ricardo, for the opportunity for everybody to present their work today.
Oh, look, thank you so much, Tegan and Combo, and to Tukane for organizing everybody into place, and then all the artists for getting your pictures so perfect. I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic. 2 minutes. It was brilliant. So thank you. We're going to send people your way to learn from some of our other pitch sessions. But on this note, I just want to, again, thank you, everybody, and let everybody know that tonight in the Airmeet Lounge, you do need Chrome. Chrome is the best, and a laptop. Come and join us and come and meet some of the artists. The PDFs of the artists' projects will be put on the PACE website for everybody to see. So all 11 PDFs will be there. You can join. We ask all the artists and all delegates to also create a profile on the website to where people can connect with you. So that's the easiest way for people to kind of continue the conversations with you. So please do that. We are now 1 minute away from starting the Kurvan Fortuin workshop and also the other workshop on arts funding. So we unfortunately have to say goodbye here,